Digital's seen success in creating pathways to the digital economy with the work that we do with our young people. And when we talk about working with young people, we actually make sure that the elders are learning together with young people, because that's our way, intergenerational knowledge sharing, intergenerational learning. So for us, it's not good enough just to work with kids. We want the whole community involved in learning things like augmented, mixed and virtual reality technologies to express our culture. Some of the things that we found by including the entire community in that conversation is the kids are really excited about the tech, but they don't necessarily have the cultural authority to be creating our knowledge, language and law in these new technologies. So the elders are in the room talking through what the technology is, having dialogue between themselves about whether this is an appropriate use of putting our culture in the technology and what does go in and what doesn't go in. Everyone in the community is having the same conversation about whether it's appropriate or not. But what we've also seen is kids seeing that they can work in these technologies and that they don't have to see a future for themselves necessarily in low-skilled labour. A lot of our communities in Australia, unfortunately, have been shoehorned into low-skilled labour roles, and these are roles that are disappearing because of robotics, because of machine learning. So being able to show them that there are other ways that they can get involved in a technology career from country and in something really cool like mechatronics or machine learning is really inspiring for everyone in the community, because now they're not being frightened of what happens when that industry is automated. They can see a future for themselves. I can speak to what First Nations people in Australia have been lacking in terms of accessing the digital economy, and that is devices. So hardware, internet connection is a big challenge for communities across Australia, and I'm imagining that Māori face similar challenges here. I think also not waiting for those things to arrive in community is important, that we have agency over being involved in digital technologies, and with all technologies, there's analogue ways we can start learning before the internet connection arrives. So for example, at InDigital, we teach machine learning algorithms using paper cups and sticks as a methodology. Okay, and then we move into the digital technology. But having access is critical to being able to participate in the digital economy. The other thing is expressing our 80,000 years old way of thinking about the world and bringing that forward into what we're doing in the technology. So understanding that the land that we're on plays a significant role in the technology that we're using, that the technology that we're using is made up of mineral resources that come from First Nations peoples all across the world, and honouring the extraction of those resources in the creation of this new technology. Thinking about when we're using technology, what happens to it at the end? It's going to be on someone else's country that we dispose of e-waste. So not just thinking about the nuts and bolts of using the technology, but thinking about the entire pathway of creating a piece of technology that we're using. Like, that's our way. We always thought of the land which all the resources came from that we used in our daily lives, and how we might conserve those very precious resources and how we might use them wisely. Businesses play a really important role in creating pathways. The number one thing businesses could do to better engage First Nations people in any country is to be able to talk about what you do in your business, not in your language, but in ours. Kids and young people, even people that are transitioning in the workforce from old industries into new industries, don't have a really great understanding of what these roles are. For example, we were talking to an energy company the other day who's moving from coal-fired power to renewable resources, who are also dealing with Internet of Things devices and satellite technologies to move their product and service around the country. Yet if you asked someone from my community if they wanted to work at that company, they'd say, no, I don't really want to walk around in a fluoro and read people's gas meter. So being able to describe what the roles are that are available in those businesses is so important, because you're not going to attract our mobs into these incredible jobs if we don't know what the opportunities are. Within a business who is looking to engage First Nations people as partners or as employees, I think that responsibility sits at the CEO level. What we've seen in Australia is if the CEO, the senior executive team and the board are not invested wholly and budgeting for the initiatives to engage First Nations people in the business, then it's really not usually a success. If the CEO is invested in really understanding First Nations communities, they need to approach First Nations communities and spend time with our mob and understand the way that we speak about critical technologies and the world around us. It's not our responsibility as cultural people to try and translate the opportunities that are within a business. It's the other way around. There are so many opportunities for Indigenous people to be a part of business in critical technology. And something that we've done really well in Australia is start with country, because all of these businesses operate from somewhere and they have assets that's on someone's country. So what we like to do is a process called connecting to country. And it means when the infrastructure is being built, that the First Nations people come together to work together with the developer and with the owner of that critical technology infrastructure asset and bring cultural knowledge systems into that development. So we're starting at the foundation of technology systems and not just working at the thin veneer of the user experience layer. Because a lot of First Nations communities have been shoehorned into being great artists or putting some artwork on a building or visually representing our culture rather than having the opportunity to develop all the way through the technology stack. So if we start at country, where the asset is, we get an understanding of what culture can bring to the asset. And we also are in this process together where the developer and the owner or the business is being immersed in our culture and our understanding of that place. And the conversations start from there. If you're starting to work with like a coal-fired power station that's transitioning to renewable energy, the mob there start getting really interested in battery production. They get interested in engineering. They get interested in mathematics. And then all of a sudden, our mob have pathways into these careers that are operating essentially on their country anyway. Whereas before they would have seen that as something else. Now they can be a part of it.